Politics in action, institutions and processes. Introduction. Politics is not merely a theoretical construct, but an active, dynamic process shaped by institutions, actors, and decision-making mechanisms. While ideologies and constitutions lay the foundational framework, it is through institutions and processes that politics comes to life. Governments legislate, implement, and adjudicate policy. Citizens vote, protest, or lobby. Bureaucracies carry out the day-to-day governance of society. This essay explores how politics functions in action through the lens of key institutions: executive, legislative, judicial, and formal and informal processes, elections, policymaking, political parties, interest groups, and administrative implementation. It also investigates variations across political systems, emphasizing how structure influences outcomes and how political processes shape the distribution of power, justice, and resources in society. 1. Political institutions, structure, and function. Political institutions are the formal organizations and rules that structure political activity. They regulate how decisions are made, who holds authority, and how power is transferred. 1.1. The executive. The executive branch is responsible for implementing laws and managing state affairs. Presidential systems, e.g., United States. The president is both head of state and head of government, elected independently of the legislature. Parliamentary systems, e.g., United Kingdom. The prime minister is the head of government, drawn from the legislative majority. Semi-presidential systems, e.g., France. Power is shared between a president and prime minister, often leading to cohabitation. 1.2. The legislature. Legislatures make laws, authorize budgets, and represent public opinion. Unicameral vs. bicameral, single chamber, e.g., Sweden, or two-chamber, e.g., U.S. Congress, House, and Senate systems affect the speed and complexity of legislation. Majoritarian versus consensus legislatures. In majoritarian systems, power concentrates with the majority. In consensus systems, e.g., Switzerland, power is dispersed for broader inclusion. 1.3. The judiciary. The judiciary interprets laws and ensures constitutional compliance. Judicial review. In countries like Germany or the U.S., courts can invalidate laws that contradict the Constitution. Civil law versus common law. Civil law relies on codified statutes, e.g., France, whereas common law builds on precedent, e.g., UK, U.S. 1.4. Bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is the administrative machinery that implements policy. Weberian model based on hierarchy, rule-based operation, and meritocracy. New Public Management (NPM) emphasizes efficiency, decentralization, and market-based service delivery. 2. Political processes, from elections to implementation. Political processes are the mechanisms through which citizens engage, policies are created, and authority is exercised. They are central to democratic legitimacy and governance effectiveness. 2.1. Elections. Elections are the cornerstone of representative democracy, providing a mechanism for accountability and legitimacy. Electoral systems. Majoritarian, first past the post, e.g., UK. Simple plurality wins. Proportional representation, PRE.g., Netherlands, seats distributed by party vote share. Mixed systems, e.g., Germany, South Korea, combine FPTP and PR to balance representation and accountability, voter turnout and participation. Factors such as education, media, access, voter ID laws, and compulsory voting influence participation. 2.2. Political parties. Political parties aggregate interests, recruit leaders, and compete for power. One-party systems dominated by a single political party, e.g., China. Two-party systems. Two major parties alternate power, e.g., U.S. Multi-party systems. Multiple viable parties form coalitions, e.g., India, Germany. Party functions. Articulate policy platforms. Recruit and train political leaders. Mobilize voter support. Serve as opposition or watchdog. 2.3 Interest groups and civil society. Interest groups seek to influence policy outside formal electoral politics. Civil society organizations, NGOs, unions, faith groups represent diverse social interests. Pluralism. Multiple groups compete in an open political marketplace. E.G.U.S. Corporatism. Government formally integrates select interest groups into policy making in A.G. Germany, Sweden. Lobbying, advocacy, and protest are common forms of interest group action. Social movements. E.G. Civil rights, environmentalism, labor can shape policy discourse and reform. 3. Policy making from agenda to evaluation. Policy making is a structured yet contested process. It involves identifying public issues, developing solutions, choosing among alternatives, implementing actions, and assessing outcomes. 3.1 Policy cycle model. Agenda-setting issues are recognized as requiring government action. Policy formulation experts, stakeholders, and policymakers craft proposals. Decision-making formal institutions adopt a particular course of action. Implementation bureaucracies and agencies apply the policy. Evaluation outcomes are assessed for effectiveness and equity. Termination or renewal. Failed policies may be revised or abandoned. 3.2 Rational versus incremental models. Rational model, comprehensive analysis of costs, benefits, and outcomes. Incrementalism, small, adaptive changes, are made from existing policy frameworks. 3.3 Evidence-based policy. Increasingly, data, research, and performance metrics shape modern policymaking, although political pressures and values still play dominant roles. 4. Accountability and transparency. Accountability ensures that institutions answer to the public, while transparency enables informed participation. 4.1 Mechanisms of accountability. Elections. Voters can remove underperforming officials. Parliamentary oversight committees investigate government actions. Auditing institutions ensure fiscal responsibility. G.U.S. Government Accountability Office. 4.2 Rule of law and anti-corruption. Strong legal systems, independent courts, and regulatory bodies are essential to fight corruption and maintain democratic integrity. Transparency International tracks perceptions of corruption across countries. Whistleblower protections and freedom of information laws empower citizens. 5. Political culture and informal institutions. Formal rules interact with political culture, societal norms, trust in government, and civic engagement. Clientelism. Distribution of material benefits for political support. Patronage networks. Use of state resources for political loyalty. Informal norms, unwritten rules. E.G.U.S. Senate filibuster. Cabinet secrecy shape practice as much as codified law. Political culture influences the success of institutions. High civic trust and participation enhance democratic performance, while apathy or polarization weakens it. 6. Challenges to institutional effectiveness. 6.1 Gridlock and partisanship. In polarized democracies, legislative gridlock hinders policy responsiveness, particularly in presidential systems where divided government is common. 6.2 Democratic erosion. Institutions may be captured or weakened by populist leaders, reducing checks on executive power and undermining judicial independence. 6.3 Bureaucratic inertia. Even in democratic systems, bureaucracies may be resistant to change due to rigid hierarchies, unclear mandates, or political interference. 6.4 Crisis governance. Pandemics, wars, and climate crises test institutional adaptability. Emergency powers can become tools of executive overreach or innovation. In policy responsiveness. 7. Innovation in governance. 7.1 E-government and digital participation. Many governments now offer digital platforms for voting, policy, feedback, and service delivery. G. Estonia's e-residency and e-voting. 7.2 Participatory governance. Local participatory budgeting. A. G. Brazil's Porto Alegre and deliberative citizen assemblies. E. G. Ireland's abortion referendum enhanced democratic legitimacy. 7.3 Multi-level governance. In federal systems or unions like the EU, governance is shared across local, national, and supranational levels, requiring coordination, subsidiarity, and negotiation. Conclusion. Politics in action is a complex interplay of institutions, processes, and citizens. While constitutions and laws establish the framework, it is through elections, policy-making, administration, and civic engagement that politics is enacted and democracy made real. Institutions must evolve to meet new challenges, from polarization and populism to digital governance and transnational crises, while upholding the core values of accountability, transparency, and justice. Understanding political institutions and processes equips us to analyze governance, not as a static structure, but as a living system where power, policy, and participation constantly interact. It also reminds us that political engagement, voting, advocacy, reform is not optional, but the lifeblood of a functioning polity.